On March 5, 2025, a US Mk-9 Reaper drone took off from an airbase in Djibouti and began a routine reconnaissance flight over the Red Sea that ended up being not so routine. A few hours into its 27-hour mission while in international airspace, the Houthis fired several missiles at the drone. Despite firing dozens of flares, one of the missiles scored a hit and sent the $30 million aircraft plummeting into the sea. But this was not the first time this had happened. The loss of this drone was the 12th drone the Houthis had shot down since 2023, and came just a few weeks after they tried to shoot down a manned F-16 we covered in a previous video. These two incidents, coupled with the 174 attacks on US Navy ships and 145 attacks on commercial shipping since 2023, signal that the US strategy up to this point had not been working. So Donald Trump decided to do something drastic to wipe the Houthis off the face of the earth for good. The first wave began at 0130 local time with a bang. At 0100 local time on Saturday, March 15th, sailors aboard two US Navy destroyers in the Red Sea received the order they'd been waiting for all week: fire. Within 10 minutes, the sailors in the Tomahawk corner had built their plan to get their Tomahawk missiles to the first pre-planned waypoint. From here, the classified mission library would take over and send the missiles hurtling toward their targets. Though the sailors didn't know their ultimate targets, they all cheered with excitement as the first salvos of missiles left their VLS cells at 0115 local. At a speed of 515 miles per hour, the missiles would take roughly 15 minutes to travel to their targets in Sana'a. But because of the slight delay in when each missile left its cells, combined with the different positions of the ships, the Tomahawks were programmed with something the Houthis didn't expect. In order to inflict maximum chaos and confusion, the crews programmed all of the Tomahawks to loiter until precisely 0130 local. With this ability, the Tomahawks that got to the target area first would circle overhead while waiting for the rest of the missiles to get there, before conducting a simultaneous time-on-top attack. And that's exactly what happened. At precisely 0130, multiple Tomahawks struck Sana'a International Airport, where the Houthis have been storing and launching tons of Shahed attack drones. Also hit in this first wave was a military barracks in a residential neighborhood in downtown Sana'a. In the Sana'a suburb Mu, multiple Tomahawks slammed into 4 Houthi command posts in the Garif neighborhood of Sana'a. With the Houthis now unable to send orders to other units in the field, the US then dealt another devastating blow just 45 minutes later. As the Tomahawks were leaving their cells aboard the destroyers, F-18s from the Harry S. Truman began taking off. Their mission consisted of hitting the power station in Dayan along with 11 other targets in Sada Governorate. To accomplish this mission, the F-18s that took off that night were armed with AGM-154 joint standoff weapons. These missiles, known as the JSOW, have a range of 130 kilometers and carry a 500-pound warhead. However, these missiles were no ordinary JSOWs. Because many of the other 11 targets in Sana'a Governorate were underground weapons storage facilities, the JSOWs these F-18s are carrying this morning are equipped with special Blue 111 penetrating nose plug. With these devices installed, the bombs can now burrow through up to 20 feet of reinforced concrete or 100 feet of earth before exploding. As the F-18s near Sana'a Governorate, their first target is the power station. This station provides most of the substations with power throughout Houthi-controlled areas. Knocking this out means turning the lights off in Yemen, and that is exactly what they did. All across Yemen, soldiers and civilians alike saw their lights go out as F-18s continued pounding targets throughout Sana'a. With the Houthis now unable to see, hear, or communicate, it was now time for the real fun to begin. A few hours before the F-18s roared off the Truman and Tomahawks launched off the destroyers, 2 B-1 bombers forward deployed at a Sirlik Air Force Base in Turkey took off just before midnight. These bombers are part of Task Force 24-2 and are part of the Air Force's forward deployed strike capabilities. And this morning, they are earning their paychecks. With a distance of about 1,700 miles to go at a cruising speed of 647 miles per hour, it would take the B-1s just under 3 hours to reach the target area, just in time for the F-18s to have turned off the lights. Unable to see the bombers coming with their air search radars now turned off, the pair let loose with a full salvo of 24 AGM-158 joint air-to-surface standoff missiles, JASSMs each. And the best part about it, they didn't even have to get close to any of the Houthis' air defenses. For you see, the maximum range of the Houthis' most advanced missile sites is about 120 kilometers. However, with its powerful Williams turbofan engine, the extended range variants these B-1s have can travel more than 1,000 kilometers. And not only that, but the Air Force didn't buy the Great Value brand JASSMs. For you see, this missile can loiter just like the Tomahawk to strike at once for maximum effect. And that's exactly what happened. Right on time at 0300 local, salvos of JASSMs rained down on Houthi UAV facilities all around Al Baida Governorate. In total, the B-1s eliminated at least 8 such facilities that virtually wiped out the Houthis' cache of Shahed drones. And it wasn't even breakfast yet. Not to let their bomber buddies show them up, several Air Force F-15 Strike Eagles took off from bases in Qatar and the UAE. With a max speed of Mach 2.5, these jets took off from their bases as the B-1s turned around to return to theirs. Fully loaded down with 2,000-pound Joint Direct Attack munitions, these warbirds pummeled 2 apartment buildings in Ib Governorate. However, there were no civilians living in them at the time. This is because the Houthis kicked everyone out of their homes and stashed weapons there in the false belief America wouldn't blow up an apartment building. And with impeccable timing, the F-15s lit up the night sky precisely at 0420. And the party was just getting started. After the F-18s returned to their Truman to rearm and relaunch, they took off with some amigos this time around. If you look at this aircraft, it might look like another old F-18, but it's not. Though based on the F-18 body, this aircraft is the EA-18 Growler. Its primary mission is electronic attack by suppressing enemy air defenses. While it normally does this through jamming pods like this one, this morning it gets to try out a seldom used toy. This missile seen here is called an AGM-88 High-Speed Anti-Radiation, or HARM missile. With arguably one of the coolest names ever given to a missile, that is exactly what it's going to do to the Houthis this morning. For you see, this missile seeker is unlike most other missiles. While many use things like infrared or an active seeker, this missile scans for electromagnetic radar emissions, with the capability to scan for targets in the 0.5 to 20 GHz frequencies. This is more than enough to lock onto Houthi air search radars that operate in the 4 to 8 GHz bands. With Houthi gunners desperately searching the skies for an attack they are sure is coming, they basically hold a giant sign up that says, "Shoot me," when the Growlers are up in the air. With Houthi radar installations blasting as much radiation as possible looking for American planes, the Growlers find them first. At a range of about 70 nautical miles, the Growlers let loose their HARM missiles. They peel away just in time to see them connect with their targets and effectively wipe out all air defenses in the region. And if the Houthis thought the Americans were done, this was the perfect time for Billy Mays to say, "But wait, there's more." Back in the Red Sea, the Navy was getting ready for round 4. Moving silently beneath the waves was an American Los Angeles-class attack submarine. Though primarily intended to destroy ships at sea, the Navy has converted them to fire Tomahawk missiles as well. Except this time, they can shoot them out of their torpedo tubes or 12 vertical launch cells. With American commanders seeing the destruction more clearly in the daylight, they decide to give the Houthis an uppercut by taking out their secondary command posts in Damar Governorate. At 0640, the submarine fires a salvo of more than a dozen Tomahawks through her torpedo tubes in a rare demonstration of this capability. By 0710, these Tomahawks, like the ones fired by the destroyers, turned 4 more command posts into parking lots. But the Navy was not done yet playing around. Lurking just off the coast of Yemen was this aircraft. If it looks like a weaponized 737, that's because it is. The P-8 Poseidon is generally used as a maritime surveillance aircraft to find ships and submarines over vast distances. But today, it gets to play with another one of its rarely used toys. This is the AGM-84 Slammer, which stands for Standoff Land Attack Missile Expanded Response Missile. Unlike the JSOW, this missile can break the sound barrier and hit targets up to 270 kilometers away. Though it can hit ground and sea targets, Poseidons rarely get to play on land. But today, they do. At approximately 0915, a lone P-8 flying in the Red Sea lets loose a salvo of slammers. 15 minutes later, multiple radar sites that covered Hajj Governorate are now nothing more than debris by 0930. With Houthi air defense now virtually eliminated across the whole country, the path was now clear for the grand finale of today's fireworks show. Back in November, 6 of these aircraft deployed to the Middle East for the first time since 2019. This iconic aircraft is known as the B-52, and these are currently based in Qatar. With its max payload of 70,000 pounds, this big ol' boy can haul 35 2,000-pound GPS-guided bombs into the fight. more than any other aircraft in US service. But despite this awesome strike capability, it is an older, slower aircraft that was invented long before the latest advancements in anti-air technology. That is why the Air Force and Navy had to clear a path for these guys to come through. And oh boy, did they show the Houthis that this old dog knows a few tricks still. At noon local time, the B-52s released their payloads and dropped 70 JDAMs onto Houthi barracks and weapons storage sites that the Navy had not hit in their early morning strikes in Sana'a. And while this might have been a dangerous mission before, with the devastation wreaked earlier, it was a milk run. As the B-52s flew back to base, US commanders rejoiced at the success of the first day's operation. Over 40 targets were destroyed without a single American loss. But the Houthis didn't hear any bell. As the crews aboard the various ships of the Harry S. Truman Strike Group finished up dinner, they were ecstatic on board at their success. Everyone had played their part perfectly, and they had dealt a historic blow to the Houthis. However, at around 1800 that evening, radars on the USS Stout and Jason Dunham picked up a flurry of incoming contacts that showed the Houthis were far from being defeated. Bye for now.